This is Amelía, Aeon, Karris.
This is Satya, and you're listening
to Love, Sex, and the Hidden Agenda. Our podcast was created with the sole intention to release toxic shame, illuminate our shadow nature, and expose the mysterious entities that feed off our most precious life force, our sexual energy. To learn more about our life-enhancing courses and transformational retreats, visit knowtheself.com. Let's dive in.
Hey, Amelía.
Hey, Satya.
Can you see me? I'm kind of dark in here.
Yeah. Like half light, half dark.
So I have this video that I want you to watch. Are you familiar with Jordon Peterson?
I'm not.
Okay, so he's one of my favorites for a couple of reasons. For one thing, he's a psychologist, but I like how he boils down truth and kind of slows down the thinking process so that people actually think. But this isn't really going to be this is just a 1 minute clip I wanted you to see, because I've been thinking about, I have some questions actually that I wanted to ask you from it. And I have like a whole kind of conversation I wanted to have. I'm just going to start playing it now for.
Yeah, cool. I want to see it.
People to hear. Here we go.
Okay, go ahead.
If you know the addiction literature, this is particularly true with alcoholism, but it's not unique to alcoholism. It's been known among hard-headed addiction researchers for like 60 years that one of the most reliable cures for alcoholism, and there aren't any others, by the way, regardless of what treatment center people say, is spiritual transformation. And at its base, that's a reflection of something like the hero's journey. Absolutely. That's a hard-headed reality. And, you see that happening pharmacologically to some degree now with, the people who are doing the research with psilocybin, showing, dramatic effects on cigarette smoking, for example. Mm-hmm. Psilocybin produces this mystical experience, and that has this curative. Now, that's all that needs to be unpacked. It's not just some chemical thing happening. It's very, very complicated, way more complicated than we can possibly understand. But yeah, so if you're just the victim, well, you're certainly not the hero. And maybe being the hero is actually your way out of the addiction. Because look at it this way, man, you need something better to do than to be addicted. And that's not an easy thing to find, because those damn drugs hijacked your pleasure systems. Cocaine, amphetamines, heroin, they're real killer drugs. They hijack that. And so to get out of that, you need something better. Well, yeah, good luck.
Yeah, there's so much in that little 1 minute I was thinking about. One thing I think is just to point out that, because for many years I was a drug and alcohol counselor, and I worked in a psychiatric hospital on a drug and alcohol unit, and, with a master's degree in psychology and other things. So I did that for a long time. And there's movements now here in the Bay Area for retreats that people can go on. And I actually did have a friend who was an alcoholic and went to one of these retreats and used some kind of, I think it was that, which is another way.
Psilocybin?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so changed her life, started teaching yoga, and, never touched a drink of alcohol again. So, and then of course the 12-step process, which is based on a spiritual guidance system. And then I know your history and all that you've changed, and you have kind of walked that talk and walked that path. And the retreats that we do, we don't allow any kind of substances in them. And so I'm thinking of all of these, different, I guess the angst behind what I'm feeling is just that I want there to be some answer to this. It just seems like it's been going on so long, and it's so widespread, and it's so okay, especially drinking alcohol. And I know that I've gone through periods where I feel like I'm drinking too much, and, and I act in ways that maybe I don't want to act. And so I don't really drink much anymore, but if I didn't have my spiritual self, or I didn't have that other work. So there's a lot going on with this. And I feel like right now, a lot of people are struggling with these things. And with, we've discussed before that we've sort of as a culture lost our religion, and religion itself may have not been the answer. Maybe New Age isn't the answer, but there's something that I'm wanting to, and one of my missions I feel in life is to bring those things together and have this other way of walking where, we can, we do need other things to do besides addiction or besides escaping through that, or looking for connection with another person, which I know for me, when I would drink with my partner or something, I'm looking for like, oh, let's go on this magical little adventure together, and but also we can do that without any kind of substances.
Yeah. Right. You're talking about a lot of different things. So I just want to unpack it a little bit, because I think addiction is complicated. People get addicted for a number of reasons. I think now also during COVID and this whole lockdown, more and more people are trying to, numb out, escape. And so they reach for some sort of intoxicant, right? Be it even just food addictions or substances. You were kind of like pointing to, religion and spirituality and New Age and addiction. And I know he's bringing this up about, the only way out of addiction is through a spiritual awakening. And I have to agree with him on that. And I would differentiate that the spiritual awakening isn't necessarily through religion or any kind of, I don't know if I do see some people go through AA and they get very religious and that helps them out of it. I've seen that happen. But I also see that when people find their God through doing the 12 steps and they start, they're having a spiritual awakening, but they don't have any naming for it. So they kind of reach for what's been presented to them, which, could be religious. But what were some of your
upbringing was, or wherever they live, whatever the religion in the town they live in, or
the context that they're, the framework of their mental construct. But what were some of your questions for me, or like what were you
thinking one about? Of the things that I was thinking is, if this if the magic mushrooms, I guess is what he's referring to, that, and we all know there's a lot of studies going on now, not just with magic mushrooms, but microdosing, other things, psychedelics and so forth, that have helped people if they're in a certain containership. But I also think that has been misused and isn't the answer either. And I know that you have a lot of experience with these things, and you've made a definitive decision to not have we don't have anything to do with any of that in the retreats that we do together. So I'm wondering, how you came to that conclusion.
Yeah, some people think like I'm just, because I'm sober, that like, I either don't have a past or I have like some big, I don't know, negative imprint of it. And I don't. But what I can say is, yes, I do have a history of a lot of substance use and have had my own addictions many, many years ago, like it's over 20 years ago now. And I see that, I started taking substances. It started with marijuana, and then it was just like, trying one thing after the next. And for me, that was looking to expand my consciousness. I was looking for answers. And when I took psychedelics, I was really big into acid, MDMA, of course, magic mushrooms, which is the psilocybin he mentions, ayahuasca, and anything. I mean, pretty much anything and everything. I've tried it just to understand like what it does to me, how it changes my consciousness. It was like I was studying it. And I find that those substances really do open up, they open the pineal gland, they give you access to the other dimensions. But what I also noticed is that, people get addicted to them, and they use them to kind of have something to do. Like they're bored and they just need to party. And so now it's really popular here where I live. Everybody comes here to do ayahuasca, and they're doing, combo and peyote and like everything there. And I get it. Like, I think sometimes that's the path in to understand who we are as humans, that we're so much more than our human body. And it does open those doors. I just think that it's not where the answer resides. I think it's just opening the muscles so you can use those muscles without the substances. And when you learn how to use those muscles, our psychic, spiritual muscles, without substances, from a clean and sober, balanced state of mind, that's when you access direct truth and direct knowing. And in my experience, I have taken substances, even, since 20 years ago. I've taken them on occasion to kind of test out and see, like, oh, well, now that I've awakened to all this spiritual knowing and spiritual abilities, like what would happen now if I took it, and I have, like, even during COVID, I did an ayahuasca session once, and it didn't really affect me much. It was really interesting watching the room, and I could see that many people were getting attached to the spirit realm that's not source. So I think there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of misguidedness. There's a lot of shamans now running these circles, even in the container ship. That's not clear. That's not ethical from my perspective. So I do have warnings about that. But many of my students who work with me and they take the oath, okay, I'm not going to do that. They finish the school and then they want to go try something, and they're doing plant medicine, and they tell me their experiences. And I feel better about that when they've already learned, like, how to be sovereign, how to hold the body in their energetic container, and then do ceremony like that. They're going to be able to see more clearly. But for someone who is kind of new to all of this, and they step through those gateways, it can be very confusing. Sorry, there's a lot of noise here. 1 second.
Yeah, I have a friend too that recently did an ayahuasca journey in Mexico. She hasn't done it before, and she also hasn't done, I don't think, any spiritual journeys or meditation or those kinds of things. But she came back and she was talking about grandmother ayahuasca, and I haven't done it, so I don't know a lot of, but just what she was talking about, I found myself, enjoying, her sharing, but also I think kind of coming from a place of actually kind of what you said, which was, have the experience of navigating realms with my own groundedness of, guidance system. Like, how could I trust? How would I know what to trust if I was, to use something like that, or somebody told me, okay, you're going to go on this journey and you're going to see like grandmother ayahuasca or something, and I don't know. I just feel like, and then on the other hand, I thought, wow, she really didn't have to go all that far to, she really didn't have to go to those lengths to experience all that, because we can just do that right now in our own room whenever we want to, if we have
well
access.
you know how to do that. So a lot of people don't, and that's why I started the mystery school and wanted to help people. And why I do the activations the way I do them is to give people that direct access, that direct knowing. You don't need to take substances, but for a lot of people, that is the way that they have that spiritual experience. Because if the mind is too strong, like, especially for people that are really mental, and they just can't get their mind to shut up and relax, if they don't know how to dream or find deep meditative states, then of course, you know, a psychedelic is kind of a straight, direct rocket ship. But the problem is that people just get addicted to the high. They get addicted to and people do it in meditation too. They get addicted to those experiences, those spiritual high experiences where, you know, as you know, there's many times where you can meditate and you're having like a past life experience, or you have a lot of visuals, or you're having like a Satori kind of enlightened moment where you just feel so blissed out. And other meditations are just very humdrum, boring. When is something going to happen? You know, I'm just focusing on my breath, you know, like back to the very basics. And so even a lot of spiritual seekers or meditators, they're trying to chase a high too. And then
I remember feeling that for a while. Like,
yeah, it's addictive.
All I wanted to do was meditate because I would get so high.
Yes. And that's why I stopped the school, because everybody was getting so addicted, especially in the group meditations. Like,
your fault if your activations are too good.
I mean, many people have told me, like in my group meditations and the unwind experiences, they always say, oh my God, the only time I've ever felt this is when I've been on, you know, ayahuasca or some kind of psychedelic trip. Mm-hmm. But it's so great because I'm not puking and I'm sober, and the visions and the experience is so much more real because you don't have that kind of hangover feeling, or you don't feel that you've induced it with some sort of drug. And so you can kind of own the experience more. That's how I've
that's a very good point. Yeah, I love that, because that is definitely the way it feels, because you're fully sober and embodied when you're having the experience. You can't excuse it like you could with a drug. You could say,
yeah, because with the drugs you're going to tell yourself
state, or it's like or
yes. And then depending on who's leading if you're doing it in a group, there's so many factors involved, and it gets really complicated, like where you're doing it. It could be the energy of the land. So whether you're in the forest or you're in some ancient ceremonial grounds, you can have a lot of interference with what's going on in that landscape. You can have interference with the people in the group and the wills of the group and who's maybe overpowering who. So for me, because of what I know and what I've seen, it has to be a really safe, contained space. And I want everybody to be like honoring their own space and know how to manage their own energy, so it doesn't turn into this kind of like either psychic war zone or manipulative thing. Or in fact, in many ayahuasca circles, I see like men kind of like spirit psychically raping other women in the field. And it was so weird. And I've had women ask me afterwards, like, am I imagining this? Like, that guy across the room was in my entire trip. He was there, like stalking me. And then he was like trying to have sex with me, but they never touched, they never moved. Like, he's puking over in that corner and she's puking over that corner, you know, I mean, and ironically, like I had seen it, you know, I could see that he's constantly like this older man was really consumed with this younger woman's experience. And I had to put a blindfold on just to like tune them out so I could have my own experience. But I found that, you know, when you do it with a group, you just don't know what's going on. You know, you really don't know. So for me, in all my experiences, and the reason why I stopped doing psychedelics, and, you know, I would say for me now, maybe I would do it on some sort of occasion that feels like I did it during COVID, like I said, mainly because there was just so much going on. And I was wondering, like, I need to like tap in. It was right in the beginning of COVID when everyone was on lockdown, and I just really needed to be with other people. I was invited and I said, why not? Let's see what's there. And maybe I need to purge and clear something. And, you know, it's always nice to be in those kind of environments create community, but I also see that there's a bit of a point missing. And for me, I think the point is what that guy in the video, sorry, I forgot his name.
Jordon Peterson.
Jordon Peterson. What he was mentioning is like, the point is to find your life purpose, to unlock your spiritual mission and to understand what you're here for. And then it makes sense. Then you're directed and guided into what to do next.
Right.
And I think when we don't have that, we reach for things to fill the empty void, to fill the spaces. And that's where addictions come in. That's where even spiritual seeking becomes an addiction, or healing also can become an addiction. I see a lot of people that are just addicted to their healing. They're addicted to being the victim. They're addicted to fixing themselves instead of just getting out there and serving and being a part of society in some way and contributing. They think that they have to fix themselves to be perfect, whether it's to be in a relationship or to open their business or to do what they came here to do. They feel like they have to, fix all these things about themselves. And it's just not true. Like, we have to get over the victim mindset in order to claim our spiritual inheritance. And I think addictions keep us stuck in victimhood.
And there's something, in psychology, we used to call it being a dry drunk, or even if you're not using substances, but if you have the personality of like the martyr victim, that can keep you in some kind of addictive cycle so easily, whether it's food or alcohol or, and that's exactly what he alludes to in the video is, are you going to be a victim? Are you going to be a hero? And it's about being your own hero for your own self, your own life, and just doing something, just 1% better each day. Can I just be 1% better today? Just 1%. Can I just, get in the game? Can I take some responsibility? Can I be, uncomfortable, and can I stay in that space of discomfort, because it can lead to so many rewards and benefits. And I recently had a situation with a family member where there was, very similar thing. There was some alcohol, bad, just whole personality change in this person. And then, outside of that, though, the general feeling, in her life is like, I'm, it's not about me, or it's like this, I want it to be all about me, but it's not all about me, and complaining about everyone else and not looking at the stuff, just this thing, like I'm not having, and like, I don't know if it's entitlement or what, but anyway, that whole, the martyr thing, so that's so pervasive. And I feel like that needs to be kind of pulled out by but the muscle that you're talking about, it's true. There's a muscle that we use to have those experiences, and we can practice those, and we don't have to use, and I mean, I decided, I'm not drinking, and I feel set free from like a demon. I swear, I feel set free from like a.
Well, I want to talk about that, because
alcohol, devil, and isn't it true in ayahuasca? Sorry, I interrupt, but isn't it true in ayahuasca that when you're vomiting, they believe that you're actually vomiting out like something like evil or something? And there's been times when I've vomited from alcohol, and I have felt like that's happening. And then after that, I feel like whatever experience happened needed to like purge out. And so it's almost like I felt like it was like a good thing in some weird way, like whatever I said or whatever came out was stuff that I had been squishing and came out. But really, I really don't think it probably should have come out that way. And I don't think that's a good idea, but
it did. Mean, it's regrets are kind of a waste of time in my experience. But I think what I do want to say about alcohol from my experience, and I've never liked alcohol because my sister was an alcoholic and became an alcoholic at a very young age. And so my first interaction with demons happened through her. She started drinking alcohol at the age of 14. So I was like 11. Yeah, I was like 10 or 11 when I first saw my first drunk through my sister. And her eyes would change, her voice would change. She would become demonic and possessed every time. She would never remember. We found out later she had an allergic reaction to alcohol. She's allergic to it, but she was an alcoholic. So we ended up having to take her to the hospital one time when I think I was about 12. We had to take her to the ER. My brother and I, he's 10 years older. Our parents were out of town and we had to pump her stomach and she almost died. And that's when we found out she's allergic. But what I learned over the many, many years that she still, battles with this addiction, in and out of rehabs, always on the verge, suicidal, is that when she drinks, I could tell because her eyes would change. There's another entity in her eyes. And it scared me as a child because it wasn't her. Like, I was like, what is this? What's going on? I had no idea she drank, and it was happening again and again. And as I grew up, I always saw that. And I see, in bars and places where people drink, we've spoken about it before on this podcast, like the entity that kind of siphons off people and sits above places, like you saw it at a church. I think I see those shadow beings in bars and stuff, and kind of like succubus coming behind and feeding off the energy. And I think, the alcohol spirits are so strong, so devious, so manipulative. It's very hard. I know a few people who can casually drink and it's not really a problem. Maybe they have 1 or 2 beers or a few glasses of wine throughout the week, very casually. It never, increases from there. And there's a few people who can do that where I can see that they don't have any invitation to these forces. But most people who have that 3rd, 4th, 5th drink, I watch it always descend. And I've lost a lot of friends over the years because I can't personally be around it, because what happens is it always tries to attack me because I see it. And it's how I learned my shamanic gifts and how to do depossessions and all these things was through my sister's alcoholism, and kind of through happenstance or through survival, let's call it, because she was always trying to kill me. Like literally my sister would get drunk and then this demon would hold knives to my neck. And I mean, it happened more than 100 times. Like, it was just a regular daily thing for me that the demon's trying to kill me. I would wake up many times with a knife in my neck and those eyes and that voice. And my sister had no recollection of it. She would, be the next day, I would ask her, like, why are you trying to kill me? And she was like, what are you talking about? How old were you when this was going on? It started at 10 and it happened pretty much at least once a week until 30. No, in my 20s, I didn't live with her. She was removed from the house when I was 14. So from 10 to 14, it happened like every week. So I don't know how many weeks are in those years, but it was just a regular occurrence. I was so used to it. I just knew to breathe steadily, to act really calm. But she trained me. Like, I know how to manage these forces from that experience, because I knew if I react too strong, the knife's there. And so I just learned, I knew she wouldn't kill me. So I would find her in the eyes, like look for her soul, search for it. And then I would try and say words that would bring her back. And then I knew that she didn't want me dead, but that this entity did. And whenever I could reach her, she wouldn't hurt me, and she never punctured my neck. It was just always, sometimes it would go further in and I would have to hold my breath, or, but it was always there. It was just a regular thing. My mom put locks on my doors. Like, she always found a way in. And so from when I was 14 years old, she moved away, or she was removed from our house because she was so troubled, put in like a rehabilitation center for teens. And then when I was around 30, like, yeah, at my dad's funeral, she did it again. She started drinking, and yeah, she pulled a knife, woke up again with her. And it was like, really, even all these years later, and she doesn't, if you talk to her when she's sober, she doesn't have any clear thought about, she remembers it a bit. And she's like, oh yeah, I did some stupid things, but she doesn't understand that this was a regular thing, because it's not her. And I see I think alcohol is probably one of the most like dangerous substances. Of course, you know, maybe cocaine is up there, heroin is up there, but in terms of recreational substances, you know,
yeah,
psychedelics and pot are much more neutral, and they're not neutral, but they're not as dangerous as alcohol. I think alcohol is very dangerous. And in terms of entity attachments, and what I do see now in the popularization of the plant medicine and the shaman circles and all of this, is that there's a lot of entity hijacking of the devas of those plants. And I know this sounds kind of crazy, but I've seen it where the entity of ayahuasca, the grandmother, which, you know, was a very, you know, pure entity or aligned with light, I have seen it not necessarily so, let's say, where I've questioned its intention, and and I can see that some entities of these substances, like it definitely happened with LSD, and that's all very chemical, you know, designed in labs, but the LSD molecule changed. Like in the beginning, it was just this very pure substance, really opening a certain pathway. And then suddenly it was I don't know if they changed the chemical compound or what was going on, but it became like, it was, to me, it was like connecting to artificial intelligence. It was no longer a pure connection. So I don't know if that was my abilities opening to other realms and seeing things that I hadn't previously seen, or if there was some sort of like entity takeover. But I think we need to be very careful, you know, by having clear intentions, understanding, you know, why we're doing it, and ceremonialize it for yourself, even if it is that glass of wine or something that you want to do to take the edge off. You know, ask, you know, why do you need the substance? Even if it's a medication, you know, really honor it, because anytime we change our brain chemistry, we open, you know, gateways and portals, and we shift our consciousness. So when we do know what our purpose is, or we feel like we're on that spiritual kind of mission to be the best human we can be, or to fulfill our potential, I think that maybe we make different choices, or maybe we kind of see through a different lens, and it helps us to have better experiences. But that's just my opinion. My long-winded opinion.
That was a lot.
Yeah. You know, we have to keep these episodes kind of brief.
Wow. We could dissect
squeeze it all in.
We could dissect that into a couple of episodes right there. Just, yeah, that's fascinating. And
so have fun this holiday season. Be careful, right? Like, be responsible.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I was just imagining for a minute when you were talking about a world without alcohol or substances, and I was just kind of, whoa, I went into this whole other dimension, and I was just thinking how people would be, how different they would be.
We'd be so much more creative. We'd probably be singing and dancing more, because I sing and dance. Like, that's how
we would be
I entertain myself.
Right. We would be after that feeling that's not going to go away, that desire for that, and we would be after connection and adventure and all the things that, you know, and escape. And so we'd have to find it in a sober way. We would still find it. You know, or if we want to, you know, meet somebody new and talk to them, or deal with a social situation that we don't want to be in. I mean, we would have to find that way, that path within ourselves. And I just think that people would be more alive and feel a lot better about themselves.
I know. I think we'd be more artists, like poets, and
probably like, instead of getting together and just, you know, drinking, we'd probably be having
building something,
creative,
or creating something, or festive. Yeah. Like,
or we do some dance, or we would
theater.
Do, because now it's, you know, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with, you know, celebrating with like one drink or something, but even that, you know, it's just, if we wanted to celebrate, think of all the things we'd be doing to celebrate. If we didn't have alcohol, that would be just so much more amazing.
I want to live in a world without alcohol personally. I really love sober parties. I find them so much more enriching. I mean, of course, there can be a point where you feel a little like, oh, let's spice things up. But that kind of attachment to the drama, or I don't know. I think that we have deeper conversations. People are just uncomfortable having deep conversations unless they feel more relaxed. And that makes me sad. But you know me, I'm always the one asking the thing no one wants to talk about, like, hey, so.
I know, me too. You know, so it's, I mean, people would probably be dancing. They'd probably be like meditating together. They'd probably be doing a bunch of like intimacy, you know, like tantric, like, I don't know, you know, it just, rather than looking for this other vehicle. Oh my gosh. And not to backtrack a little bit, I was just reading a statistic the other day that 50% of murders are involving alcohol, of course, 50%, and 50% of people who are murdered are also under the influence of alcohol. So the things that alcohol does,
I didn't know that.
And that it's so widely accepted, and that it's just literally, I've even watched it in the last 2 decades become so, it's in everything now, everything. I even went to see James Bond, the new Bond flick, because I'm a full-blown Bond fan, right? And yeah, I grew up on Bond, and my daughter's name is Bond in her first name, like the whole thing. And my significant other looks exactly like Daniel Craig. So I now call him 007. And 7's my number. I was born on the 7th. But anyway, so my point is, even in James Bond now, he always had a martini shaken, not stirred, right? But in this one, he was just downing drinks, like, and I've never seen him do that. I've never seen any Bond do that. And it was noticeable, you know, and even my beloved said the same thing, like, gosh, he's drinking a lot in this one. And I think even in the middle of some big action scene, like he pours a thing of whiskey, and he pours a thing of whiskey for the girl that he was fighting with. And he's like, here, cheers, you know, and
like anyone who's working that hard and has to be that physically fit can drink that much.
Can even have one drink. Come on.
I mean, it's such programming. And I'm really happy you told me those statistics, because, well, it makes me a little bit angry. I'm happy because it's like proof that alcohol is so dangerous. But second, it's like, why is that not outlawed? Like, why do we have to wear masks and get vaccines and like deal with all this virus issue, when, to me, the amount of people that alcohol has killed is so insane. It has ruined so many people's lives. Mm-hmm. And yet nobody's trying to ban it. You know, it's totally normal. Like, you just have to turn 21 and you can have it. And people can drink as much as they want and get themselves totally stupid and then go kill someone, and nobody blames the alcohol.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, you know, it's that person. Well, yeah, but they just digested a bunch of spirits, you know, and we've just given a heyday to it. And I don't know.
Yeah. If there's anything that is causing 50% of murders or involved in 50% of murders, shouldn't that be kind of a pretty obvious,
can't you look at it? Yeah. So everyone listening, I hope you just make some good choices with your alcohol intake. I'm not saying abstain, but of course, you know, that is the easiest way to deal with it. But notice, track it, monitor yourself, monitor your family. Like, I mean, how many of us have that like drunk uncle or aunt that makes the whole family party so awkward and uncomfortable, you know? And I don't know, I feel for people who need the alcohol so bad to exercise their voice, but I don't think it is really their voice. So maybe we can find other ways to say what we notice.
If you notice when you take one drink, and if you notice that opiate type of feeling or that high suddenly, then you're at risk. So yeah. Okay.
That's a wrap.
Good stuff. Mwah. Good to see you.
You too. Thanks, Satya.
Bye.
To learn more about our life-enhancing courses and transformational retreats, visit knowtheself.com.